Thank
So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Lessons in Leadership series. My name is Emily Mulhall, and I am the marketing coordinator here at Muskingum University. The Lessons in Leadership series focuses on various aspects of applied leadership around real-world issues. Today's focus is crafting on your personal leadership brand and marketing message blueprint. So we ask you if you could please turn off your cameras, mute your microphone during the presentation, and this presentation is going to be recorded. You can type your initial questions into the chat bot, and once we start the Q&A session, you can turn your camera and microphone on to join the conversation. So our first presenter is Yasmine Robles. Yasmine is the creative force behind Rebel Marketing in Columbus, Ohio. She is a graduate of Columbus College of Art and Design. Our second presenter is Dr. Robert McManus. And Dr. McManus is the Executive Director of Graduate Business, Organizational Leadership, and Professor of Leadership at Muskingum. He is an active member of the International Leadership Association. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. McManus.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. And we want to make sure that we welcome Yasmine today. Yasmine, thank you so much for joining us. We are very pleased to have you here, and we're just really looking forward to exploring this idea of leadership and a personal brand. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up your first slide here. And as we start off, I'd like to just say, what is, or ask you, I guess, what is the connection between leadership and one's personal brand?
Uh, for me personally, the connection is really on you having a message. So, as leaders, we want to achieve something, we want people to take action. We have a message that we want to shout out, and that branding piece is really what helps get that across, gets you consistent, and gets the work done that you want to happen.
Okay. And I see here that our first slide talks about establishing trust and credibility and positions you as a thought leader and attracts you to the right opportunities
Mhm.
and people. How does one craft a brand as a leader and still remain authentic?
So crafting a brand, it depends on how you look at it as a marketer. It can go a lot of different ways. Branding could be visual. It could also be that messaging. And so crafting that brand really comes into knowing yourself as a leader and thinking of yourself as, so I own a marketing agency. So thinking of yourself as a business and what of these businesses that you look after do they all have in common? They all have consistency. And so that's really what ends up establishing that credibility, that brand. Um, and as leaders, sometimes we want to achieve things and we just get to push ourselves a little further into really thinking of ourselves as a leader, having that confidence and really pushing our thought leadership ahead.
So I see here on this diagram that you have these concepts of your values, your vision, and your skills. So if someone was to, I guess, start from this and say, okay, what do I want to be known for as a leader? What should we do as far as, I see your values here of integrity, empathy, growth, authenticity, community impact. Does one go through some type of a thought exercise to develop their values? How do we start that?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I'm not sure if the slides, at least from my screen, are showing what I believe would be the Venn diagram, but I can speak a little bit to that. So the really your personal leadership brand is how you inspire, influence, and lead others. And where that comes in is knowing your values, knowing your skill sets, and then knowing the vision that you have. All of those really come together to create that leadership brand. And it can be a variety of different things. If you're an educator, if you're looking to go into nonprofit work, all of these skill sets and visions and values that you hold is what really craft you into a leader and then can establish your personal leadership brand. So when we're talking about values, that can be something like the integrity, empathy, growth, when you're talking about vision, think about what your vision is for yourself and for how you portray yourself as a leader. So, is your vision to inspire future leaders? Is it to build more inclusive workplaces? And when it comes to your skill sets, think about the things that you love doing and that you do really well. So, are you more of a strategic thinker? Or if people know me, maybe an over analytical thinker, thinking about things a little bit too much? Is your gift or your skill set in communication? Are you a great problem solver? Is that where you thrive? Or do you have very specific industry expertise? So, for example, I have more expertise in marketing and design. And then do you have an expertise in really building a cohesive team? So, think about one, what are your values? What is your vision? So, what is your ultimate like goal? If you're thinking about it as a business, what's your mission statement? What's your vision statement? And then what are those skill sets that you bring to the table? And that really is what's going to create that, the basis, that foundation for your leadership brand.
So it sounds like it's very strategic and specific, saying, okay, this is my body of knowledge. This is what my values are. This is what I want to be known for. And
Mhm.
you're just constantly going back to that as far as thinking about how do I want to present myself in the world?
Yeah.
Uh,
Just to add a little bit on that, you mentioned that you look at it to present yourself, but it's also a guiding blueprint where you come back to it. So as a business owner, we always come back to our what were our quarterly goals, what were our 1 year goals. This blueprint, this values, vision, skills is really what you come back to periodically and think about, okay, am I the leader that I wanted to be? Has my vision shifted a little bit? My skill sets have grown. How has my brand evolved?
And I'm hearing also from you that it should evolve, that as you
Mhm.
gain more experiences, as you develop your vision a little bit more, that it would be natural for
Mhm.
your leadership brand to continue to evolve.
Yeah, yeah, we learn, right? Usually me by making mistakes. Um, but we grow as humans, and that just adds to your historical knowledge and everything that makes you a leader. And so as long as you have that guiding light, that principle that you've done the Venn diagram, or you just scribble it in the back of whatever scrap paper you find, you can always come back to that and ensure that either you are on the right path or, hey, look at that, my path has shifted a little bit, but my core values are still intact.
So where these skills and your vision might switch, your values should often be intact. And if not, maybe a shifting back to those values. I hear what is what you're saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, and it's all about evaluating. We don't want you to be super rigid, and we, again, as humans, like we grow, we add to our skill sets just like a resume. You're adding to the growth that you've had and the learnings that you've had. Same thing for our leadership brand.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next slide here. I'm hoping, Emily, if there's a problem, please let me know if people can't see this. In fact, Emily, can you see crafting your blueprint here and messaging that response?
No, it's the oh wait, it's the first slide after lessons in leadership. So
Oh, let me see. I'm so sorry, everyone. Please forgive me. Thank you, Yasmine, for letting me know that there was a problem. I apologize. Let me go back here and see if I can get the right one. I think I might have had two up, and that might be the problem. Zoom, share. Okay, so can you see that now?
I still see slide 2. Oh, wait, there we go.
Yes?
I think so. Yeah. I think we're getting there.
Okay. So for those, okay, so now we can see that Venn diagram, right?
Yes.
Okay. So for those of you who did not see the Venn diagram before, that's my apologies. So you can see what Yasmine was talking about here as far as considering our vision, our values, our skills,
Mhm.
and then coming back to that, what are our skills? How have they changed? What is our vision? How has it evolved? Are we staying true to our values, or have we added values there?
Mhm.
Great. Okay, Yasmine, catch me on this one. So in actually doing this, we have crafting your blueprint. Can you see
Mhm.
that there?
Yes.
Perfect. So talk to us a little bit about how we go about crafting our blueprint.
Yeah, so it goes back to that Venn diagram, your core values, and I wrote here what really drives you. So we, depending on where everyone is, the audience, we all have something that really drives us forward. And sometimes I've heard people say, "Well, I'm not a leader," but I think we all lead in some way, shape, or form. And so, really, you have to know to craft that blueprint is what really drives you, and going back to those core values every so often, and really identifying one of the unique values. Like, what is it that you offer that others don't? Where is the gap in that? So this could be within, if you I worked in the corporate world, it could be, where is that gap in leadership? What can I bring to that table that is not already there? It can be, I'm a business owner, so where is that gap that currently my team doesn't have that I need to step in or that I need to hire for? And then understanding your audience. So this is very important, not just for understanding your audience of what widgets they're going to buy or what you can market to them, but really when it comes to the leadership brand, who are you inspiring or who do you want to influence? Is it that you want to inspire, let's see, minority owned businesses to create a growth plan for the next 5 years? Is it that you want to inspire students at the high school level to go into some sort of other education or specific fields? Think about who your audience is and really find out ways to understand them. That is really how that blueprint comes together. And when I say blueprint, that's just a fancy word of, if you want to write it down in your diary, in your notebook, in your notes app on your phone, it's really what's going to guide you. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be, I know I'm speaking to a school, but it doesn't have to be a paper, a report, or a thesis or anything like that. It can be as simple as a few bullet points.
So I'm thinking about how I would apply this, right? So
Hmm.
defining my core value.
Yeah.
Um, my core value at a school is education, right?
Yes.
Identifying my unique value, what I offer that others
Mhm.
don't. It's going to take me a while to think about that, to
Yeah.
to kind of articulate what I can. And then my audience, I'm specifically thinking about adult learners, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So I need to be thinking about all those things as I'm kind of
Mm.
crafting this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was going to say those are perfect. And then how do you come in and support following your core values? How do you support that audience and meet them where they're at, right? Speak their language.
Okay. This message that resonates. Talk to me a little bit about clarity, the focus, tell me your story. What are those points that you have here?
Yeah, so these are mainly focused around, I've seen we all have great ideas, right? But sometimes that messaging gets a little lost. Or if you are presenting, you might be presenting in the wrong circle. And as leaders, we still need that practice, but we want to make sure that our messaging is clear. So whatever it is that those core values that you want to get across, is the messaging clear? And that is, and consistent. That is the most important thing. So make it simple, make it memorable, practice. We all say for business owners, create a 30-second elevator pitch. You should really have that no matter what field you're in as a leader. You should have, after you've done the exercise with the Venn diagrams, craft like your own elevator pitch for your own leadership. And then focus on that impact. Really highlight your leadership and how it drives the change that you want it to drive, whether that is leadership in the corporate world. Again, I was in corporate before I was a business owner. So how does a leadership in the VP of e-commerce, how does he lead his team to create impact, not just on the number of sales of widgets, but really within the team itself? And does that go back to your core values? Yeah, and then tell your story. Everybody, although I am a little over analytical and sometimes I get into the weeds too much, especially when it comes to websites and like analytics, but tell a story that people can understand. So if you find that people are kind of glazing over, hopefully nobody's eyes are glazing over right now, but tell a story that connects you. So use anecdotes, use experiences, and connect emotionally to your audience to make that change happen. Whatever it is, whether you're just building a team that is cohesive for whatever department you're in, or if it is that you are trying to inspire and influence these adult learners to, obtain their goals, you want to give them stories and connect with them at an emotional level because that is more powerful than just saying, hey, if you get this specific piece of paper, you might get a job. But really, what does that transformation look like for them? How will their life get so much better?
Excellent. Thank you. So we work on, I'm just going to go back because I know that some people didn't see it. So we work on articulating our vision.
Hmm.
How does that work with our skills that we have and our values? We then move forward with kind of um, making sure that that's clear,
Hmm.
focusing on what that's going to do for people in our audience. And we tell a story that uses anecdotes or experiences so it emotionally connects with our audience.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Hmm.
You've got your next slides here, which tell us a little bit about some examples, which I think will be very helpful. So I'm going to, are you ready to forward into that?
Yes. Let's
Excellent.
dive in.
All right.
All right. So I don't want to scare anyone. This is this is pulled from our business, but really as a very small business owner, it really is pulled from my own values and focus on community, focus on education. So what leaders sometimes don't understand is that brand guides, especially the messaging guides, it's really helpful for you to have one as well because it's taking that Venn diagram and kind of giving you again that bullet point list of who's your primary go-to person, your audience, who's the secondary person, what's your ultimate vision in a short, sweet kind of sentence, what's your mission, and then the unique selling points. So again, this is all back to that Venn diagram. The unique selling points could be your skill sets. Like, what do you bring in? I put a little bit of flair in it because I'm in marketing, but really you could say I'm an educator that's focused in XYZ, and my sweet spot is this particular field. So just to break it down a little bit, your primary audience. So for us, these are just people we target. But if you are in, like you said, it was adult learners, right? That would be
Mhm.
the primary audience. But you're also bringing in people that are outside of that can help you connect with your primary audience. Or people, if you're in a nonprofit, I'm VP of NABO and of the programming committee of NABO. And so our secondary is really we focus on getting more women entrepreneurs into the membership, but our secondary we also focus on bringing in sponsors. We focus on bringing in amazing speakers as programming. So we are still trying to connect with the different audiences. And then we have our own vision, mission, and what's your particular unique selling point? Like, how does your leadership deliver something and how do you make them feel? It goes back to those anecdotes, to that emotional storytelling.
So yes, I'm seeing all of these unique selling points, and this is specifically for your
This
company.
is, yes, for us.
Yeah.
But as an example of what you could have on hand, and it doesn't have to look like this. It can be, again, chicken scratch, but it's really how it's your guiding principles. It's like your blueprint. It's your brand messaging for your personal leadership style.
Okay. I've got another example here that you
Mhm.
have. I'm going to forward that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is more of like your tone. I know some of us, always consider myself a little bit awkward, but getting comfortable with who you are and how you present yourself, and trying not to, as leaders, we don't want to try to be a different brand. So if you're talking about businesses, and if let's say Walmart tried to pretend they were Target or Target tried to pretend they were Walmart, right? They each have their own type of brand. So you want to make sure these examples are just guides as to your personality, who you are, how you present yourself. So you will never probably see me in a blazer, like a matching blazer and pants that same color. You will never catch me doing that. I am in a design field and I like to be a little bit more creative when I go out. So make sure you understand your personality and you can chat GPT this. You could kind of just reflect on it. You can ask others that are around you. But for us, it's we're more vibrant, we're playful, we're a little bit cheeky, we're creative, but we're always approachable. Like you can always catch us or bribe us to talk about marketing when you bribe us with tacos. Like that is who we are. Um, think of another breakdown would be a musical vibe. So if you are a leader, what kind of personality, what kind of musical vibe would you have as a leader? Same thing with the TV movie characters. It's just again another way that you can say, "Oh, I'm more like this person from The Office," or "No, I'm from The Devil Wears Prada." Totally up to you. But what character represents who you are? And all of these daily tone of voice, the power words that you might use or terminology that you want to use that you don't want to use, that what this is when you go out and speak, when you go out and represent the visions that you have, the goals that you have as a leader, whether it is in a nonprofit or in corporate, anywhere, you stay consistent and that draws people to you. I know a person who, as a visual, she always wears purple. Like that is her favorite color. Purple is her thing. And so as a visual, that is consistency, right? If I see someone in purple, I'm like, oh, that's Bethany's purple. Like that's her purple. We want people to think the same when we meet you at an event in person, when we hear you talking, speaking somewhere, where when we hear you teaching, it's always you're not pretending to be anyone else. It always comes back to this, and we're like, yeah, that's totally Robert, whenever Robert wants to share his example.
Okay, so
Black. I wear all black all the time.
is yours 1 hour?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we might, let me just mute something here. Okay, there we go. Good, good. All right. So thinking about like what I guess so this is really what the person, like for instance, what I would think about. Okay, what's my musical vibe? What's my
Mhm.
movie
Yeah.
character, my tone of voice, my terminology? Okay, so that's very helpful. I'm gonna go to, you've got another example here.
Mhm.
Okay.
So these are more so if you, in your position, you are starting to speak, I don't know, podcast interviews, you're more of starting to become more of that industry expert. I suggest having your own leadership brand rules of how do you speak to people? Do you want to be, and there's nothing wrong with it, but some people have a bit more jargon in their industry. Are they okay to speak that way, or do they want to connect with others who don't understand that jargon? And so maybe let's pull back on that a little bit. So do's and don'ts. Content pillars, this is where people will contact you. So what expertise do you have? Again, it goes back to that Venn diagram of what skills do you have. What
Mhm.
can I tap you for? Is it that I tap you for maybe Robert? I'll say, you know what, we have an opening for a speaking thing. We need to talk about adult learners and the hurdles that they face. Because I know that Robert has these content pillars and that's one of them perhaps. And then words that describe you. This is just again to give you a brand guide of how do you want people to describe you? It could be that you want to be playful, creative, approachable. It could also be that you want to be really, I don't know, if you wanted to look really fancy or, always super well put together and like in heels. None of it is good or better or whatever. It is just really what describes you. Again, we want that consistency as leadership. And then you want to know how people will not describe you. People will never describe me as formal. I like tacos and coffee and carbs way too much for them to describe me as super formal. I will likely also never be wearing really tall heels because I just can't do that after the pandemic. I can't be fully serious all the time. And so just knowing what words don't describe you as well can help guide you. And then some value statements. Again, this goes back to that Venn diagram, just statements that you can always fall back on. So these are some of my own. sometimes fall into when I describe our business. But for example, I strongly feel that your brand should feel as comfortable as your favorite pair of stretchy pants. And so if it doesn't feel that way, if you're a leader and your brand feels kind of stuffy, it feels like you're putting on those skinny jeans after like a really long holiday, not speaking from experience. Um, but if that's what your brand feels like, that's not for you, right? So similar like a business, you want it to feel like it's completely you, and these value statements can help guide that for you.
So, Yasmine, I
Mhm.
want to just take a second here
Yes.
and ask a question. What if your brand isn't working for you? What if, okay, so I'll be very, transparent here. The other day, someone said that I was too academic, right?
Mm,
Well, I've spent a lot of years in college. I never left. So I've learned a particular way of speaking.
mhm,
I don't think that I sound too academic, but I'm going to say my audience sometimes thinks that.
mhm.
What do you do if your brand isn't working for you?
So my question would be, was that comment saying that it wasn't working, or was it just a comment on because that could be your brand as a leader. It could be, if you said, you know what, I'm fine with it, but also it's not connecting with the audience that I want to connect with. And if that's the case, then practicing, I would say, don't just completely change your brand. Like you said, you wear all black almost all the time. I don't expect you to be wearing what, like a Hawaiian shirt, right, out of the blue. But if you well, let's talk about the that visual. So instead of completely saying I'm just gonna wear Hawaiian shirts every single day now, that's who I am, and flip-flops. That might not be Robert, but maybe Robert, you could start adding a little bit of testing out, and it's a lot of testing to make ensure that it is you are comfortable with it, testing out different colors. Like you wear all black, maybe we're going to wear a little bit of something else. Um, Test out that brand and see how it feels, because it can come off disingenuous if you just say, "Oh, I'm going to start talking about tacos and tequila, and that's how I'm going to connect." Potentially, but it could also come off as disingenuous. So you want to make sure that even with a business, you want to make sure that everything is as authentic as possible. And you can do a little bit of testing and maybe switch up that language. That might be where that comment is coming from. It's more of that language. Um, and see if it fits. But we also, again, there's a line that where people can tell that you're not being authentic to who you are.
Right. So yes, know your values, know your skills, know your personality, but also be willing to start small experiments
Hmm.
to see if you can reach an audience in a better way while still being authentic.
Yeah.
All right, I've got one more slide here. Did you want to say something before I moved on to that next slide?
Go ahead.
Okay. Amplifying your leadership message. So we've done this, and now how we go about amplifying it. Talk to us a little bit about that, if you would, please.
Yes, and I don't want this to scare people. I was trying to figure out how can I give more information in one slide, but not scare people. So this is just a rundown of a few methods that you can really get your messaging out there. So let's say you've done the Venn diagram, you know who you're targeting, you've done the work. You're like, okay, this is how my personality. I'm going to be a vibrant and playful person. Or maybe I'm going to be more academic. So think about, where is that audience? So you have your primary audience, your secondary audience. Where are they located so that they can receive your message? So you have to meet them where they're at currently. Let's say it is, younger folks. Maybe TikTok might be the thing. Start looking through, let's say if it is TikTok, start looking through TikTok about who else is in this field that is already on here. How are they speaking to the audience that I want to speak to? And then decide whether that does fit. Again, going back to that blueprint and all the stuff that we talked about. Does that fit your personality? Does that work for you? We don't want to be disingenuous. We don't want to be inauthentic.
Mhm.
So then you can decide, is this platform where I can amplify my message? If not, okay, great. Let's look at others that might be a bit easier or might meet my audience where they're at when they're in that mindset. So if we are targeting, let's say we're trying to empower adult learners, it could be TikTok, but it could also be LinkedIn. It could be those adult learners looking to increase their education, right? To increase their career potentials. So it could be that it's LinkedIn. Yeah, they might be on TikTok, but they're not in that mindset of, let me hear this messaging. They're in a mindset of, let me watch some people fall down on some ice. So then LinkedIn might be the place for you. And so if it is, I wrote down a few, a why and a how for each of these.
Okay.
And really, like, LinkedIn is a leadership hub.
Mhm.
Now, if we want to go back to your audience and you say, well, actually, I want to empower high school students, it might be TikTok, it might be Instagram, it might be a more video than an article, right? If you want to hone in on certain people that it depends, but Substack is a good one for like newsletters. People can subscribe to you, um, free and paid, and you can give out that leadership information that you have. Again, it depends a lot on who your target market is. For me, if someone is giving news or information on the latest things that are happening for design, yeah, I do subscribe to people on Substack. But again, I am on TikTok, but I like to watch little dogs or people falling on ice.
Yeah, mine is cat videos. So okay, so knowing your values, knowing your skills, knowing what you bring to that, and then there's this conscious effort to craft the way you present yourself in the world, and then amplifying that message.
Yeah.
Let me go to the next slide, and I'm sure that our folks are going to have lots of questions, so we'll make sure that we have time for questions too. Marketing yourself as a leader. Talk to me a little bit about this idea of content strategy, networking opportunities, and this personal website or portfolio.
Mhm. So after I scared you with the last slide, I wanted to simplify this a little bit for you.
Okay.
So we talked about the content pillars in one of the previous examples. So if you say, okay, I'm going to talk about these three things, these are my core items that I can speak to, you can then start crafting a content strategy. And I didn't necessarily want to put a calendar on here because we're all busy. We can create our own calendar. But one of the ways that you can get your messaging out as a leader is to really craft your own articles or blog or topics really on what you're passionate about. So if it is, the importance of supporting, maybe it is for Robert, the importance of supporting higher learners or how to support adult learners.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yes. Um, then you could craft articles about that if that is where they are at and that is for your primary target market. For us, we actually borrow from other people. So people who already have podcasts, their own articles, and we guest on theirs, kind of like this. And then so you can become a guest instead of, you don't have to be a podcaster. You don't have to create your own podcast. We did, but that's because we're in marketing. But you can be invited to other people's podcasts. You can pitch yourself as a speaker somewhere. You can join a couple panels for networking events. So if you know of, I know way too many organizations. So if you guys are interested in any of them, let me know. But sometimes they need panel speakers depending on the topic, depending on the location as well, or what their goals are, depending on the event. You can join in or as a speaker or just join in the conversation by attending, and this is going to help you get that messaging out and get your brand recognized as a leader. And just share. You have your content pillars, just share that advice. You have so many skill sets and so much knowledge in there that you can easily be on a panel, and people think sometimes I don't have anything to talk about. I'm like, no, you have so much to talk about, so much experience that you can go out there and start building that audience. And then personal website or portfolio, I just recommend this of anyone. You can increase your LinkedIn page. You can look at that and see, that's a starting place. If you want to, once you start getting a few of these speaking engagements, if that is where you want to go, or you want to amplify that, have more control of how the messaging is amplified, you can create a really easy website or some kind of portfolio, depending on what your niche is, and showcase your achievements, showcase everything that you've accomplished and your philosophy as in that particular industry leadership, your values, and this a website just helps you control that narrative
Mhm.
versus something like LinkedIn, right? So you can send people to your website versus just the LinkedIn page. But LinkedIn should still be, as leaders, we should all really have a really great honed in LinkedIn page for the algorithm, but also when you connect with someone and they're like me and they stalk you immediately when they get back in their car, you want to make sure that it is updated, that it has all of your, you're posting on there regularly about your content pillars that we talked about. Yeah, so and consistency. It's just everything consistent. So you don't have to post every single day on TikTok. I'm not going to make you do that, unless you want to, but really being consistent. So if it is every Monday you post about a particular thing in leadership in your industry, then that's great.
Okay. So our next thing would be the first steps, right? So
Mhm.
can you talk us through this a little bit?
Yes. So first thing, identify just one core leadership value that you want to highlight this week. Just one thing for yourself. Highlight it. And this, by highlight, it could be just, hey, you know what? I actually haven't thought of this. I'm going to write it down on a sticky note and put it on my wall. It could be that you maybe post about it. So a quick video about why adult learning and maybe going back to school, getting that master's degree that you've been dreaming of. Maybe that's one little quick 1 minute video that you post, right? And then share one leadership insight or story on LinkedIn. So this could be a reshare with your comments. That's always something that's pretty simple for people. It could be that you read an article and you really took 3 bullet points away from it and you want to explain that on LinkedIn. And then plan one piece of content. I know we're all busy. I have 2 kids and they're not in school today. But plan one piece of content that you could potentially craft. And this could be a blog post. It could be a video. It could just be a series of posts for LinkedIn or whichever is your social media of choice, wherever your audience is at,
Mhm.
and just to help amplify that brand.
Okay. So you've given me some homework here that I'm going to work on. Thank
So
you.
everybody will be stalking Robert, right?
Yeah, again, I'm an academic, right? I think about homework and I think about, what do I have to get that A? Um, and then I see your
Yeah.
final piece here, and it's that of course it says thank you, but I think it also, I was looking at this slide when you sent it over. I think it summarizes so much of what you've articulated as your personal brand, right?
Mhm.
So it's, someone's upside down and there's a piece of technology here and they are in flat shoes. It'd be very different if it was high heel
Mhm.
shoes, you know. So it's interesting to me how even this little calling card, if you will,
Yeah.
is kind of summarizing these pieces that you talked about in that Venn diagram,
Mhm.
just going back of the values, your vision, and your
Mhm.
skills. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. You
You
want to
should
talk
have
about that?
seen, yeah, you should have seen the face that my employee gave me when I said, so I have an idea for the shoot. I'm going to be next nearby, but you'll be putting your laptop on your feet. But you know what? I think it goes along with that brand of who I am because she said, that's interesting. And then she said, that sounds like great. That sounds like it matches our Rebel marketing brand. And so,
Even
uh,
the name,
yeah,
Rebel, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it goes back to, again, that consistency piece of who you are, what values you have, the vision you have, and skill sets. So, yeah, for us personally, we value a lot of education, a lot of community and supporting the community in any way possible, whether that is through volunteer or speaking or any way that we can share our knowledge. And then just having a little bit of fun. So, we're not going to be strictly just telling people what to do. We're gonna have a little bit of fun and be authentic along the way. And this is, yeah, that photo shoot was
Yeah.
very, very
Yeah.
fun.
Well, okay. So on that, I'm going to open it up for questions from everybody, but we have to go back to that thank you because I just think it's so it's just this image of what you've been talking about. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. I'm going to invite everyone to go ahead and turn on their cameras, their microphones, and ask Yasmine any questions that you might have today. So,
Okay.
and I know Henry's also been monitoring the chat. So Henry, if we've got a couple questions,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I just like to start off with the first question of that. Everything we've heard all during the presentation, is there a leader that's out there that you think that their brand is really good and that you inspired to, and as far as building your own company over the years?
There are quite a few. One that comes to mind is she's local, Shara Hutchinson. She wrote the book Barefoot in the Boardroom. And she will come in. You can tell who her personality has always been very consistent, but she also always brings in a little flair. So she will dress professionally. And then she has shoes that she got that look like taxi cab design shoes. And she told me that she bought multiple pairs of these so she can be consistently wearing them. Right. And so that just, and she's great. She's a great person. She's always also the VP of corporate sponsorship for NABO. Um, but yeah, that's one of the local leaders that I'm like, okay, your consistency is on point. The way you speak is very, again, Robert, you said you were too academic. I think she can toe that line very well in seeing who her audience is. So she does that very well. She's been a keynote speaker. Now I'm gushing over Shara. So
why taxi cab shoes? I've just got to ask.
I can't remember how she explained it, but she said, you know what, this just really fits with my brand and something about going places. And I was just like, I just love the shoes. Like she has, I believe, and if she sees this, I might be wrong. She has ones that are kitten heels, so shorter heels,
Uh-huh.
and then some that are taller. And then she got them, I believe, at Kate Spade, and she heard that they were going to be discontinued, and she grabbed a bunch, and hopefully she was able to put that on her taxes.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Great example. Other questions that we might have here. And I just have to acknowledge we have some students from our doctoral program, from our
Oh, great.
master's
Yeah.
program in the audience. So I want to, make sure that I give a special welcome to them as well. Other questions? You can just speak up, use your microphone, pop it in chat, whatever you'd like.
I have a question. So when you talk about how you created your personal brand, have you ever found when you were on that journey, was it difficult at any times? Or is there any advice for those who are going to be starting this? What you would say, how to help get over those bumps?
Oh man, there were so many bumps. I think for myself, the hardest part was seeing others. We spoke about Shara, right? And I fangirled over her just now, but seeing other leaders, and the hardest part was finding out and being comfortable with who you are in your own personality and your leadership and how others see you. So definitely had my time. I might look like I'm 16, but I'm a little older than that. But had a couple years where, you pretend you try to emulate what these other leaders, what their personality is. And then your messaging just kind of gets dried up. It's not, your messaging is lost because you're trying to emulate someone else. And so hopefully if you don't take anything away from this at all, is really being comfortable with who you are, with your personality as a leader, and not trying to pretend to be someone else, because they could be cool beans, right? I don't know if that just aged me. They could be cool, but you don't want to necessarily exactly duplicate what they do, because your personality is really what's going to amplify your messaging and make that change happen wherever it is, whether it's building a team in your business or moving a nonprofit forward with their strategic plan. it's you and your personality that's going to get that done, not necessarily pretending to be someone else.
Thank you.
I mean, I'd love to know what other industries people are thinking about, or where their niches are.
Yeah, I would like to know that too. Emily happens to be in marketing, so I think that that was a perfect one. Other folks out there, other questions that we might have. I know we've also got a group on campus, leaders of the line, I believe are watching us today. I've got a student in here. I don't want to call on that person, but you know I will if no one says anything.
I don't know that I have a question. I have more of a comment.
Yes.
I'm old, and so I'm listening to everything you said, and it all makes sense. And I find that I actually have figured out how to do a lot of that just over time of being sort of true to who I am. And I'm just kind of tired, and I'm thinking, gosh, how do I like put all this in place? Because it feels like a lot of energy worthwhile. And like I say, I feel happy that I've kind of developed a lot of that on my own, but it just feels daunting in some ways.
Yeah, I can see where that would feel daunting, maybe even a little tiring, right? You just kind of want to go back into bed, just thinking about all that. My question to you would be, where is it that I guess you said you're comfortable with where your messaging is? Is it the is it the part where you have to really amplify that, where you got to get that messaging out? Is that what makes you more tired?
Like posting on
Yeah,
LinkedIn
like
and
Yeah,
TikTok
posting.
so
type of
I have a
thing?
LinkedIn account. I haven't updated it in like a year, and I've actually had some. First of all, I'm the chaplain here, and so I don't. I do sell myself in the sense of wanting to make sure that people know I'm available to them, and so I try to be present everywhere on campus that I can be. I dress fairly casually typically because I don't want that religious professional to be a turnoff for students particularly. But like I said, I have a LinkedIn profile that I haven't updated in a while, and the thought of just going back, it's like, oh yeah, I need to add this. Oh, need to add that. Then it's one more kind of social media because I keep up on Instagram mostly and somewhat on Facebook, and now I have a chaplain Instagram account. So adding one more of like trying to regularly go and keep tabs on Instagram and like other people's posts and post things, it just feels like a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. I would say, yeah, you are on a lot of platforms, especially for more of a one. It sounds like you're a one person show. Um, I would see where your audience is at and then hone in on that. And then it sounds like you got your messaging on point. You've honed in on that niche, on what your topics are that you're going to be posting about or that you can reshare. Uh, where my question would be, what's the number one place that your people are at? Is it Instagram? Is it LinkedIn? And then just kind of focusing in on that.
So I hear you saying, be strategic and specific
Mhm.
and don't feel like you have to spread yourself too thin.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because the importance of leadership is really not spreading, not putting the message out in all. I mean, yes, we want the message out everywhere, but when you are limited on time, pick the one that's going to make the most impact. So if you're looking to impact, I don't know, I have a middle schooler. I'm looking to impact middle schoolers and trying to focus them in on getting things done, which is that one avenue other than yelling at them in Spanish that will really make the most impact on in their mindset, right? So kind of honing in on that when it comes to social media or all these other platforms out there. Don't spread yourself out too thin because yeah.
Yeah, I hear one of our people in our chat said if you're marketing to everyone, you're
Yeah.
marketing to no one, right?
Mhm.
Denise Wiley asked, do you have any recommendations of blogs, podcasts, or TikToks to follow?
Mm. TikToks are mostly my doom scrolling or like people falling down or food that I save, but I'm never going to actually make because my husband's the one that cooks. But with podcasts, there is one that comes to mind. I believe it's produced by LinkedIn. I think it's like Anxious. I'll have to look it up, and I can, if you want, we can get together or we can have a chat, and I can send out a couple of lists. I listen to way too many podcasts, mostly murder podcasts. But there is one on, I think it's like the anxious overachiever, something like that, through LinkedIn Learning.
Mm.
That's a good one. And they have, I believe, a series of them. And then there's industry. So I listened to a couple of industry agency podcasts, marketing podcasts, SEO, because I'm a nerd and I like learning that. Um, but yeah, I can definitely, maybe, I don't know when the slides will be sent out or anything like that, but I can give a quick list. I can look at my Spotify and see which ones I'm listening to.
Henry, we usually send the slides out to folks right away, don't we? And then the actual podcast or our video cast here will be posted in about a few days to a week.
Right.
Do you think we could wait to get some of those from Yasmine and then send out maybe a list with the slides?
Yes, yes, so, yes, once we get the list, then I can send out the
Yeah,
slide deck and also the list too, so that'd be
yeah.
awesome.
Okay,
Perfect.
I'll send it today.
Other questions or other comments that folks may have? So Yasmine, I'm going to go back to, because I know that we have, um, I know that there's a group of undergrads on campus, right?
Hmm.
And they, we've got a variety of people in our audience here. So
Hmm.
we've got some people like Chaplain Wellington, who he knows his values. He
Hmm.
knows what he brings. He knows the skills that he has
Hmm.
developed over time. But some of our undergraduates may not know those yet.
Hmm.
What can they do to start thinking about, their values, the skills that they bring, how they want to position themselves? What are some tangible things that they can do? Because I know I've worked with undergrads for a long time. They are still very much in a state of evolution, right?
Hmm.
Um, what can they do to start developing these pieces of their authentic leadership?
Yeah, there's a couple of exercises that come to mind. Some word, and I can send some resources for these as well that we typically send to other people. But for example, one of them is just a map of description words and what really, and picking like the top five descriptive words that for them and their leadership style will help. Others are a little bit lengthier in discovering, what values do we hold the highest? Because yes, like maybe for one person, world peace is like, yeah, I want world peace, right? But there might also be other values that trump that. So we want to make sure that we're getting your like top five values. And there's an exercise that we sometimes do with clients as well, where it's like, okay, maybe they want to be that adventurous brand, right? And so we kind of start honing in on those one word descriptions of their brand. It also comes with time. And as you're building the skill sets for your career and for your life, I think it just comes with a lot of testing, like we talked about before. I would still not skimp on that networking piece and getting out there. Do not wait till you feel like you don't wait till you feel like, oh, I've got it all together. I'm a leader now to go and out there and learn because that networking piece, getting out there, getting those even very small workshops, speaking engagements, those types of things, being on a podcast, those small things, even putting out your message as hard as it might be for some people on video, um, putting out that message is what's going to give you that feedback from others. And then you can start seeing, oh, I didn't realize I was good, my skill set was in this, but actually I'm a really great communicator, or I can actually build teams really well because you're getting that feedback. Hopefully that helps. I don't want anybody to say, I'm going to wait and put everything on hold until I figure it out. No, no, go out there because that's the feedback that you want. You want that immediate return.
Okay, so don't so your recommendation to them would be start doing some of these things and continuing to refine
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
they go.
I mean, we talked about it, right? It's an evolution.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean just because you might not be able to fill in a very robust Venn diagram right now, doesn't mean that you shouldn't attempt it, or that maybe you focus on one of the circles. So if you say, you know what, I know I'm working on my skills right now, but my values, I'm not sure. I don't know
Right.
what to put in there. Well, then let's focus in on that and figure that part out. And we can figure that out by, I say this because I made the mistake of saying, I'm going to wait until I'm super buttoned up and have everything in place. And I never networked until later on. So make sure to go out there. That is the immediate feedback that you need. And then you'll realize, oh, okay, well, this organization, that organization, or this person that I spoke with, you start gaining experience from that and honing in on that Venn diagram and what goes into each circle.
That's very, very helpful. Um, Once again, to our audience, any other questions? And if not, we will say thank you and give our parting thoughts. But I want to make sure that we give time for any other questions.
I have one last question. Do you have any recommendations for motivation and inspiring others? I'm a school teacher. I teach high school. So we're having a hard time with children in attendance. So I'm looking for ways to sort of motivate them to finish school and not withdraw.
Yeah. Books for yourself or books for the students?
Well, for me to help
Okay.
the students, because on average, I work in a very large city school district.
Yeah.
We lost 45 students last
Mm,
month to dropping out. I have a
Mhm.
problem with this.
yes.
And
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out how I can myself work with kids to make them value education.
hmm I'm not sure about specific in education, but I do have some books on motivation that I can send you. Some are probably well known, some others are a bit smaller, no,
Okay.
smaller known, um, smaller audience, but I can send that as well, including the podcast list.
Okay, I would totally appreciate that because I just ordered your Barefoot and the Boardroom book
Oh, it's not
from
mine, but it's my
Amazon.
friend's. Yeah,
Yeah, I just
she did a really good job in that book. We also have a local author series that she's sometimes a part of.
okay.
But yeah, hers is a good book.
Thank you.
Yeah, Denise, I think that even that question starts to get to that Venn diagram of your vision, right? Of your vision of wanting students to stay and complete their high school education. So,
hmm
Yasmine, this has been extremely helpful today. Thank you so much for being our guest here. I think this has been helpful for all of us to be thinking about who we want to be known as leaders and how to tell other people who we are as leaders.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me also, I'm listening to you. I want to make sure that I share the correct point here. We've got one more thing. Yasmine, though, before we go to this, why don't you just wrap up with any final words that you have?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to get a hold of me, well, you can go to my site, myrebelmarketing.com. You can also email me. It's Yasmine, Yasmine, at myrebelmarketing.com. That'll just go directly to me. And I mean, I'm always open to just grabbing a coffee virtually or in person and chatting about leadership, about motivating people, whether they are youngsters or maybe older. Um, and I can share all the mistakes that I have made, but you can always reach out to me in those platforms. LinkedIn, I'm more active on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. Henry, do you want to wrap up our time together today?
Yeah, just add on to the presentation today. We do have a master's and a doctorate of applied leadership here at the university, and we also have an MBA program. And a lot of the things that we talk about in our program is about leadership, and in particular when it comes to marketing. MBA is marketing yourself and marketing your products. So definitely interested in our MBA program, our master's and doctorate applied leadership, which will soon be termed organizational leadership. Please reach out to us. We'd love to be a part of your life and help you grow as a leader as well.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. And once again, thank you, Yasmine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we good to go? Or yeah.
Just one more time. Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for, I think Robert's coming into right just 1 second. So.
Yeah, have her. Would you is Yasmine still
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Would you let her, Yasmine?
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
thought that went so well. Forgive me, I look like a monster with this light. I've got to hop on to another meeting, but I wanted to say thank you and thank you so much for rolling with my mistake with the PowerPoint.
You're fine. It's happens.
Thank you so much. I'll
All
see you.
right.
I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
Natalie.
All right. Need
I'm
anything else
sorry,
from
and we
me
got
other than the list?
no, another list and just the list, and I add that to the PowerPoint. Again, thank you so much. I know you got to
Yeah.
run. Definitely got to thank you for everything and apologize for the little bit of pressure, but I just want to let you know that your work is inspiring people, and I didn't want to add any more pressure, but I think that
Oh,
was
thank
something I
you.
wanted to tell you. So
Thank you.
yeah, and
All right.
definitely I got to take you up on the virtual coffee
Yeah.
because I got to rebrand myself. Like I told you before, I
Mhm.
went from athletics into this, and I still feel kind of awkward. So I want to
Yeah. All
get
right.
your input. So you take care.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye bye.